I need my fellow leftists out there to not give in to despair because of the Supreme Court ruling when it comes to nationwide injunctions. Yes, this does take away a massive tool in the toolbox to fight back against this administration, but it is by far not the only tool. It is a massive setback, to be sure, but do not give in to despair, my friends. Do not give in to despair, my comrades, as this is just a tool that's been taken away, but it is a tool that can be given back, as people need to realize that this is just the Supreme Court taking away tools from other judges that can be given back because of how our three branches are set up. In the ruling, the Supreme Court even writes their ruling states that they agree that Congress gives the authority to these lower courts. What they ruled on was not the Constitution, but a law from like the 1700s or something like that, based on what the judges were allowed to do. So based on that law, the judges weren't allowed to do nationwide injunctions as far as the Supreme Court saw it. Meaning, all Congress has to do, say a Congress that is, given to the Democrats in the midterms, all they have to do is pass a law that makes it so that nationwide injunctions are allowed. That all Congress has to do is, by order of law, give the lower courts the nationwide injunction power. And the Supreme Court, of course, would probably hear about that because, opponents against nationwide injunctions would sue. So if you want to make it absolutely permanent, you can do the one thing. We can push for the one thing. In the 2030s, we could push for the one thing that these people cannot do anything about. A constitutional amendment. If nationwide injunctions are something that we actually absolutely want to make sure that the Supreme Court has to allow, you amend the Constitution. Because of how our government works, there are three co-equal branches, but all three co-equal branches are subservient to the Constitution. The Constitution is the document that overrides all powers of all co-equal branches of the federal government. The federal government may be powerful, but the Constitution is even more so. And if you amend it, then that becomes a permanent part of the Constitution, and that is what the Supreme Court will rule on going forward. It is why the Supreme Court cannot go against the amendments in the Constitution currently. If there is something that is an amendment to the Constitution, the Supreme Court has to abide by it. They may not like it. They may even vehemently hate it, but they have to. They have to. So, that is where we currently stand. Nationwide injunctions are gone. We can despair and miss them, but as of right now, they are gone. But all it is a single tool that has been taken away. We can still sue this government. We still have that right. We can still sue the absolute crap out of this government. And let's look on the bright side, my comrades. Remember, speaking of the Constitution, the midterms and the presidential election are guaranteed. They will happen. Do not give in to despair. They will happen. Do not listen to anyone else on this app telling you that the midterms and the presidential elections are not going to happen. They are. So, with that being the case, we must win the midterms. We must win the presidential election. We must take back control of the federal government and start cleaning up this mess. Start doing the long-term process of cleaning up all of this mess. And then we can work on giving nationwide injunction powers back to the federal courts if that is something that we still want at that time, etc., etc. But I did say that there was a light at the end of this tunnel. Nationwide injunctions have been taken away from us, but it's also been meant that nationwide injunctions have been taken away from them as well. Meaning, for when Democrats take control of Congress and take control of the White House, nationwide injunctions are no longer a tool in the toolbox that the Republicans can't use. They can no longer use that tool as well. It has been taken away from everyone. The Supreme Court has taken that tool away from everyone. Meaning, if a future Democratic president does something, then each individual state individually has to sue. There cannot be a nationwide injunction against that executive order. So, if a future Democratic president comes up and does something that we leftists want them to do desperately, and they do it through executive order, then guess what? The Republicans are just going to have to eat crow because they cannot use nationwide injunctions against it. So, there you go. Yes, the nationwide injunction is a tool that's been taken away, but it's been taken away from everybody. We just got to remember that. And we got to remember that the Constitution was forged in fire. The Constitution held firm in the Civil War. It will hold firm now. Do not give in to despair, my comrades. There will come a day. Look towards Zoran Mondani as a guiding light. Look towards him as your guiding light out of this darkness.